announcer bot, and if you're looking for racing, this is the right place.
Hi, I'm Ada, and I'll be provided the sass and heart to today's commentary.
The engines are revving up and the drivers are ready to hit the gas pedal for this qualifying session at Ahvenisto. The adrenaline is pumping. Team 01 is on his out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time. That's the outlap done for Team 01. He'll now look to focus on his first flying lap. It looks like Darren O'Mara is getting ready to make his move. He's taking his time to warm up those tires and get everything just right. Team 01 is on his first flying lap.
It's certainly exciting to watch, but let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position for the race.
Team 01 has improved by -0.17 up through Tarun Mutka. Team 01 has completed his first flying lap in 1:41.645. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Costo is rising to the occasion.
It's always impressive to see a driver in the zone like this Hal. Let's see if he can maintain this pace.
Costo is in the green by -1.16, making his way through Samako Mutka.
The rest of this lap is no cakewalk. Let's hope he can keep it up.
Costo has just completed a lap in 1:43.906. Let's see if he can improve on that time further. Costo has lost 0.22 seconds so far through Varicon Ma unknown currency key. Team 01 is up -0.11. Team 01 is looking relatively composed going through Sualinki. This is where the mental game comes into play. Fabrice Leterme is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run.
He'll want to get a good gap established for the flying lap.
Loic Anas is driving through Veracon Ma unknown currency key and is up minus 0.59.
If Loic Anas gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
Loic Anas is expertly commanding that car through Samako Mutka.
The action and glory drivers have lived here at Samako Mutka is truly historic.
Costa will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session. Tak will be looking to use this first hot lap to set a solid time in the standings.
Tak is indeed a rare breed. It takes a special kind of driver to thrive under this kind of pressure.
Tak is now up minus 7.22 in Tarun Mutka.
All we can do now is wish Tak luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Tak has just completed that lap in 1:46.238. His best lap so far is 1:46.238, putting him in P6. There are just over 45 minutes left in this qualification session. Loic Anas will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
Tak has found an extra minus 1.36. Tak is keeping his head down through Tarun Mutka.
Fans sitting near Tarun Mutka get some of the best views of the action.
Tak has some work to do as that 1:45.293 is only good enough for 7th. Adam Keefe is working his way through Samako Mutka. It's clear that Jaeger Strensky is pushing his car to the very edge of traction on this qualifying lap.
Let's see if he can put a good marker down.
That ACA 70 to 80s road, Saab 99 Turbo S1 1978 looks good driving through Vericon Ma unknown currency key. Jaeger Strensky is looking relatively composed going through Suolinki.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near Suolinki with a nice drink and some friends.
This is what it's all about. Melero is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session. Melero has completed his first flying lap in 1:45.684. Adam Keefe is up -0.64. Adam Keefe is expertly commanding that car through Suolinki.
There's a spot near here where the teenagers sneak off to make out.
Adam Keefe will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session. Adam Keefe is -0.2 up driving through Suolinki. Fabrice Leterme is keeping his head down through Vericon Ma unknown currency key.
Don't forget to check out the views near Vericon Ma unknown currency key, they are fantastic.
Sketty has found an extra -0.74. Sketty appears focused and prepared driving through Samako Mukka.
This is such a great track, I need to make it back here more often.
Fabrice Leterme will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session. That ACA 70-80s road, Saab 99 Turbo S1 1978 looks good driving through Sualinki. Costo has improved by -0.38. Costo has some work to do as that 143.201 is only good enough for 6th.
There's still more time to be found, but Costo may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Jaeger Strensky is up -0.4. Jaeger Strensky will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Fabrice Leterme is in the green by -0.22. Fabrice Leterme will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
Costo is up -0.13. There are just over 35 minutes left in this qualification session. Sketty has improved by -0.69 up through Tarun Mutka. Sketty has some work to do as that 143.789 is only good enough for 7th. Fabrice Leterme is in the green by -0.1. Melero has found an extra -0.1. Melero is looking relatively composed going through Veracon Ma unknown currency key.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
Melero is driving through Sualinki. Melero has some work to do as that 144.880 is only good enough for ninth.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he can improve further on that.
Melero is currently up -0.29 going through Tarun Mutka. Melero has some work to do as that 144.557 is only good enough for ninth.
There's still more time to be found, but Melero may be looking for it in the wrong places.
There are just over 30 minutes left in this qualification session. Lok Anas is keeping his head down through Tarun Mutka.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the cars speed by.
Lok Anas will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session. Darren O'Mara is working his way through Varicon Ma unknown currency key. That ACA 70 to 80s road, Saab 99 Turbo S1 1978 looks good driving through Samako Mutka. Sketty has improved by -0.6. Sketty has some work to do as that 143.410 is only good enough for 7th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he can improve further on that.
Lok Anas has found an extra -0.18. Lok Anas will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session. Darren O'Mara is up minus 0.13. Darren O'Mara is looking relatively composed going through Vericon Ma unknown currency key. Darren O'Mara is driving through Samako Mutka.
This track has many great straights and corners, but this one is especially good.
Darren O'Mara has some work to do as that 143.387 is only good enough for 8th. Felix 789 is on his first flying lap. Felix 789 is keeping his head down through Vericon Ma unknown currency key.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights. Vericon Ma unknown currency key has it all.
There are just over 25 minutes left in this qualification session. Adam Keefe will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session. Fabrice Leterme is now up minus 0.11. Fabrice Leterme is working his way through Tarun Mutka. Jaeger Strensky has improved by minus 0.11. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Felix 789 is nailing both. That ACA 70 to 80s road, Saab 99 Turbo S1 1978 looks good driving through Vericon Ma unknown currency key. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Felix 789 is rising to the occasion. It's clear that Felix 789 is pushing his car to the very edge of traction on this qualifying lap.
Felix certainly is nailing this one. This is shaping up to be a great performance.
Felix 789 has just completed a lap in 142.339. Let's see if he can improve on that time further. Fabrice Leterme is driving through Sualinki and is up minus 0.32. Team 01 has found an extra -0.18. Team 01 is expertly commanding that car through Sualinki. Fabrice Leterme has improved by -0.1. Fabrice Leterme will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Felix 789 is up -0.26. Felix 789 will be happy, with a time good enough for 2nd in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
There are just over 20 minutes left in this qualification session. Fabrice Leterme is looking relatively composed going through Sualinki. Fabrice Leterme will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Felix 789 does not look to be improving on this lap. Ada, any thoughts on ways to improve?
Good question, Hal. It's all or nothing now. He'll need to stay focused, hit the brake markers, and extract every ounce of performance from that car to move up the grid.
Adam Keefe is now up -0.1. Adam Keefe appears focused and prepared driving through Vericon Ma Unknown Currency Key.
The action and glory drivers have lived here at Vericon Ma Unknown Currency Key is truly historic.
Felix 789 has found an extra -0.19. Adam Keefe is now up -0.34 in Samako Mutka. Adam Keefe will be happy, with a time good enough for 2nd in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
Darren O'Mara has improved by -0.1. Darren O'Mara is in the green by -0.11, making his way through Vericon Ma Unknown Currency Key. Darren O'Mara is minus 0.14 up driving through Sualinki. Darren O'Mara has some work to do as that 143.345 is only good enough for 8th.
There's still more time to be found, but O'Mara may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Darren O'Mara is currently up minus 0.22 going through Varicon Ma unknown currency key.
If O'Mara looks at that Delta 2, it may end up being a distraction, and all that time he found may be lost.
There are just over 15 minutes left in this qualification session. Sketty is driving through Tarun Mutka and is up minus 0.29.
Sketty needs all the focus and resolve he can muster to maintain this pace.
Sketty has some work to do as that 143.079 is only good enough for 7th. Team 01 is up minus 0.13. Melero is in the green by minus 0.23. Melero is driving through Samako Mutka. Melero has some work to do as that 143.249 is only good enough for 9th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he can improve further on that.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. Loke Onas is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right.
Patience is key in these early moments, Hal, but I have a feeling Loke Honors is going to make it count.
Loke Honors will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Felix 789 has found an extra minus 0.32. Felix 789 is working his way through Vericon Ma unknown currency key.
If Felix 789 listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
That ACA 70 to 80s road, Saab 99 Turbo S1 1978 looks good driving through Samako Mutka. Felix 789 will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
It seems like Felix 789 is struggling, currently 0.56 off his best pace up through Vericon Ma unknown currency key. Costo looks to be off the pace. Ada, what can he do to improve?
Well, Hal, he'll need to find those extra tenths of a second by pushing just a little bit harder on the braking and carrying more speed through the corners.
Costo is not able to keep his pace consistent, so far 2.49 seconds down through Sualinki. Loke Honors will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Loke Honors is keeping his head down through Vericon Ma unknown currency key.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near Vericon Ma unknown currency key with a nice drink and some friends.
You can feel the tension building. Christoph Lee Apold is out on track and getting ready to push for his qualifying time. As Christoph Lee Apold completes the outlap, he will be hoping there's enough space on track to fully attack on the flying lap. Lokanes will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
Team 01 is in the green by -0.21. Team 01 is now up -0.29 in Vericon Ma unknown currency key.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
Team 01 is looking relatively composed going through Suolinki.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Team 01 will be happy, with a time good enough for 1st in this qualifying session. There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Jaeger Strensky will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
And there goes Lokanes, currently in P4. He's shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still a chance to improve on that time. Lokanes will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session. Darren O'Mara has secured a respectable 10th in the qualifying session. This is a great spot to use as a launchpad for a strong race performance. A tough qualifying session for Christoph Lee Appold. He's currently mired in 12th position, which is a setback for sure.
I completely agree, Hal. Christoph Lee Appold is in a difficult position, but needs to analyze his performance so far and make the necessary adjustments. It's all about regrouping and taking the best shot in the remaining time.
Christoph Lee Appold is driving through Suolinki.
To see the best action, you can't go wrong here at Suolinki.
A strong showing from Darren O'Mara as he's currently in 10th. With the session drawing to a close, he'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. Darren O'Mara appears focused and prepared driving through Suolinki.
Don't forget to check out the views near Suolinki, they are fantastic.
A challenging session for Christoph Lee Appold so far. He's currently in 12th position, which is not where he wanted to be. But in motorsport, we've seen remarkable comebacks, and he'll be hoping for better fortunes to secure a good finishing position.
It's time for Lee Appold to dig deep, find some determination, and learn from his mistakes to fight back in the race.
Christophe Lee Appold is expertly commanding that car through Vericon Ma unknown currency key.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Christophe Lee Appold is in the green by minus 0.35, making his way through Sualinki. Impressive display by Fabrice Leterme, currently sitting in P6. He set a competitive time, but the question remains whether he can push even harder to secure a better starting position. It's an impressive showing by Locanes, currently in 4th. He's showcased his talent, but will need to find those crucial extra tenths to climb higher.
You're spot on, Hal. Locanes' current position of 4th is a testament to his skills and determination. Now, there is the challenge of maintaining his position against hungry rivals.
Impressive work from Sketty, who has claimed 7th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining his composure and push for an even better starting position. Incredible drive by Fabrice Leterme so far, earning him 6th. The competition is fierce, however, and he'll need to quickly find more time to get even closer to the sharp end of the grid.
Great analysis, Hal. Fabrice Leterme has shown excellent pace to secure 6th. Now, the focus shifts to whether he can use that track position to his advantage in the race.
Fabrice Leterme has some work to do, as that 2014.603 is only good enough for 6th.
There's still more time to be found, but Fabrice Leterme may be looking for it in the wrong places.
What a performance from Felix 789, currently in 2nd on the grid. It's a good spot for now, but other drivers are trying their hardest to put in a better time and push him down the order. Felix 789 is keeping his head down through Tarun Mukka.
This is such a great track. I need to make it back here more often.
Felix 789 will be happy with a time good enough for 2nd in this qualifying session. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at Ahvenisto, as we're getting ready to get things underway. Team 01 will lead the way from pole position.
Team 01 is sure to be excited at his prospects for this race.
Felix 789 has a great opportunity starting on the front row.
He will have to keep his foot on the gas in order to stay at the sharp end of the grid.
The third place on the grid belongs to Adam Keefe, a driver with plenty of experience.
Big things expected for Adam Keefe today.
Lining up in fourth is Loke Anas.
It's not always easy to get the ACA 70 to 80s road. Saab 99 Turbo S1 1978 this high up the starting grid.
At fifth, we have the one and only Jaeger Strensky. Green light and the race begins. As drivers jockey for position, they must be cautious of potential pileups.
Maintaining a safe distance while still pushing for position is a delicate balance. Experience and composure will be vital in these opening moments. I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Jaeger can do from here.
Out of the traps, and Melero has already made his mark in this race, gaining places early on.
It's early days yet, but if he can keep up this momentum, he might just make it to the podium.
The drivers are jockeying for position. Jaeger Strensky will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate his position.
Every corner, every lap, and every race is a chance for these drivers to hone their abilities and improve their skills.
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
There are a few drivers with a point to prove, and a few with some grudges to bear. Let's hope they can keep it clean.
As the tires come up to temp, their available grip is changing, and the drivers that manage this transition best are likely to make progress through the field. Melero has nailed the start, gaining places early on, so he should be pleased with that.
A fantastic start for Melero indeed, but the first lap can be very scrappy. Let's hope he can hold on to that place.
The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap.
What a beautiful day for racing here at Ahvenisto. This is going to be good to watch.
It's been a solid race so far for Costo. He's holding his position and keeping a steady pace. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Felix 789, who is currently in P2. But Team 01 is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Felix 789. The gap between Felix 789 and Team 01 is getting smaller. The battle for P7 is heating up as Sketty tries to catch Fabrice Leterme in P7. Costo is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Costo needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
It looks like Felix 789 is pushing hard to catch up to Team 01. That's not a small gap, but Felix 789 has what it takes to challenge for the position. Costo is running ninth and trying to catch Sketty. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Darren O'Mara trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Costo. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
This is where experience comes into play. Costo has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but O'Mara is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
It's not looking good for Darren O'Mara, who is still behind Costo, and the gap is increasing. The race is heating up as Felix 789 in second closes in on Team 01. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Felix 789 is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Felix tries to reel in Team 01. But Team 01 is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Felix needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Team 01 and move up the field.
Felix 789 is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Team 01 to 0.3 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Things are heating up as Darren O'Mara tries to close the gap to Costo.
That driver is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
Felix 789 is on a mission, chasing Team 01 who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Felix should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Team 01.
The tension is building as Sketty trails behind Fabrice Leterme. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Fabrice Leterme is pushing to maintain the lead, while Sketty is working to close in and challenge for the position.
That's right. Sketty in 8th knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Fabrice Leterme is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Felix 789 is chasing Team 01 in P1. This is where the race gets really interesting. Jaeger Strensky is closing in on Adam Keefe. The gap between Jaeger Strensky and Adam Keefe is widening. It's now up to 0.4 seconds. This is a thrilling battle as Felix 789 edges closer to Team 01 in their fight for P1. Oh, this is getting intense. Sketty is just a few car lengths behind Fabrice Leterme.
Sketty is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
Looks like Felix 789 is really pushing it to the limit. He's taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about maintaining that fine line between speed and control.
This one's going to be tough. Fabrice Leterme is getting his elbows out, and there may not be enough time left for Costo to make a move.
Fabrice Leterme is doing a great job of defending in the lead, and Costo is pushing hard to close the gap. It's an exciting race and it's not over yet.
Costo is giving it his all chasing down Fabrice Leterme in P8. Costo has just put in a faster lap than Fabrice Leterme, so that's going to give him something to worry about. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Jaeger Strensky will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Hold up, breaking info. That won't be ideal for Fabrice Leterme.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Strensky in 5th determined to catch up. But we know Adam Keefe isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Strensky is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as Strensky can close that gap.
The delta between Felix 789 and 2nd and Team 01 remains over a second, but Felix 789 is not letting up. He's pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 17 minutes left in this session to make that happen. Felix 789 needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. Ada. He's just put in a slower lap than Team 01.
It will be interesting to see if Team 01 can keep outpacing Felix.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Jaeger Strensky, who is currently in P5. But Adam Keefe is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Jaeger Strensky.
Absolutely. Jaeger in 5th will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
Breaking news, folks. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Jaeger Strensky gaining places and Adam Keefe losing them. Well, it doesn't look like Adam Keefe is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Jaeger Strensky.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Good news for Adam Keefe, the gap to Jaeger Strensky has decreased. It's now down to 0.8 seconds.
That's a great effort from Adam Keefe. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
Hey, Ada, you've had your fair share of races with little action. How did you handle the situation back in your racing days?
Well, Hal, patience is key in such scenarios. You need to stay focused and be ready to seize any opportunity that comes your way. It's like a game of chess at 200 miles per hour.
It looks like Adam Keefe is pushing hard to catch up to Jaeger Strensky. That's not a small gap, but Adam Keefe has what it takes to challenge for the position. Stop the press. It's looking good for Adam Keefe, who has gained places and put some distance between themselves and Jaeger Strensky.
Go, 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 that's what we want to see. It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Jaeger is not going to give up his position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Adam Keefe in P5 doing everything he can to catch up.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Strensky is really walking that fine line.
Jaeger Strensky is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Adam Keefe at the moment. We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. Ada, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling?
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
These drivers are in a fierce battle, with Jaeger Strensky trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Adam Keefe. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Strensky tries to reel in Adam Keefe. But Adam Keefe is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Strensky needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Adam Keefe and move up the field.
Looking at the lap times, Jaeger Strensky is not currently on pace with Adam Keefe. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time.
Hopefully Strensky can find some of that missing time and get it back.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Darren O'Meara in 10th chases after Fabrice Leterme. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Darren O'Meara needs to find a way to close the gap. It looks like we might get a battle between Darren O'Meara and Fabrice Leterme.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
The tension is building as Jaeger Strensky trails behind Adam Keefe. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Adam Keefe is pushing to maintain the lead, while Jaeger Strensky is working to close in and challenge for the position.
That's right, Jaeger in 5th knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Adam Keefe is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
It's certainly not going to plan for Jaeger Strensky right now, who is struggling to keep up with Adam Keefe.
This is not ideal for Strensky, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
The gap between Timo 1 and Felix 789 is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Timo to even allow Felix 789 to get a look in.
Felix certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Timo 1.
The gap between Felix 789 and Timo 1 is growing. It's now up to 1.3 seconds. You know, Ada, I've always wondered, how do racing drivers stay so cool and collected under such immense pressure?
Well, Hal, it comes down to mental strength and training. Drivers often work with sports psychologists and practice techniques like meditation and visualization to help them stay calm and focused during high-pressure situations.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Darren O'Meara will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with O'Meara in 10th determined to catch up. But we know Fabrice Leterme isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. O'Meara is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as O'Meara can close that gap.
It's not going to plan for Darren O'Meara, who is trailing behind Fabrice Leterme, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is a tough situation for O'Meara. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Things don't seem to be going Felix 789's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. It looks like Felix 789 is making a move. The gap to Team 01 is now down to 0.7 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
Jaeger Strensky has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Adam Keefe. I expect his only hope at this point is that Adam Keefe makes an error.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Jaeger Strensky is on a charge. His split time shows he's upped his pace.
Strensky appears to be pushing. Hopefully he can keep it together.
The delta between Felix 789 and second and Team 01 remains over a second, but Felix 789 is not letting up. He's pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 9 minutes left in this session to make that happen. It's not looking good for Felix 789, who is still behind Team 01, and the gap is increasing. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Felix 789 trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Team 01. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. It's looking good for Costo, sitting in 8th. Impressive stuff from Costo, who has managed to pull away from Fabrice Leterme, leaving him in choking in his exhaust fumes. I don't think that's the fastest way around Ahvenisto. It looks like Darren O'Mara is pushing hard to catch up to Fabrice Leterme. That's not a small gap, but Darren O'Mara has what it takes to challenge for the position.
Absolutely. O'Mara in 10th will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks, and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
Well, it doesn't look like Jaeger Strensky is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Adam Keefe. The gap between Jaeger Strensky and Adam Keefe is getting smaller. I'm curious, Ada, can you tell us about any pre-race rituals you had when you were racing?
Of course, Hal. Before every race, I would listen to a specific playlist of songs to help me get in the zone. I also had a lucky pair of socks that I would wear during races. It may sound silly, but those little rituals helped me feel prepared and focused.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Fabrice Leterme, as there is a big gap ahead.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
It seems like Fabrice Leterme has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Costo's lap time there. It's a brilliant day for racing here at Ahvenisto. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sat here witnessing this spectacle.
Team 01 is placed first at the moment.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
He can't hold on. Team 01 is losing time to Felix 789.
This is where the pressure really starts to mount on Team 01. He'll need to stay focused and not make any mistakes.
Things don't seem to be going Fabrice Leterme's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Fabrice Leterme certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Costo.
It's game on now. Fabrice Leterme has closed the gap to Costo. It's now down to 1.4 seconds. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Fabrice Leterme, who is currently in P9. But Costo is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Fabrice Leterme. A strong showing from Loc Honnes, who is currently third.
Definitely Hal, but Loc Honnes can't afford to get complacent. This race is going to require focus and intensity.
The gap between Loc Honnes and Adam Keefe is getting smaller. It's now down to 3.8 seconds.
That's a worrying sign for Loc Honnes.
The gap between Costo and Fabrice Leterme is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from first name to even allow Fabrice Leterme to get a look in.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
The gap between Fabrice Leterme and Costo is widening. It's now up to 1.6 seconds. Tactics are clearly going to play an important part in this race.
Drivers are going to need to look after their tires and will want to keep something in them for the crucial latter stages, as their tires wear and fuel levels deplete in the handling changes.
And don't forget the track grip increases as more rubber gets laid down.
Indeed, the conditions are constantly changing and the drivers need to adapt, otherwise it can cost crucial time and jeopardize their position.
Fabrice Leterme has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Costo. I expect his only hope at this point is that first name makes an error.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
It's all about consistency for Adam Keefe, who is currently fourth.
Yes, but Adam Keefe has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
It looks like Jaeger Strensky is starting to catch up to Adam Keefe. The gap is now down to 2.3 seconds. The race is heating up as Fabrice Leterme in ninth closes in on Costo. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Fabrice Leterme is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Costo is not going to give up his position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Fabrice Leterme in P9 doing everything he can to catch up.
It looks like Costo is pulling away from Fabrice Leterme. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Samako Mutka. Things are going according to plan for Sketty, who is currently seventh. Oh no, Ada, look at this. Costo is closing in on Sketty. The gap is now just 2.0 seconds.
This is a critical moment in the race for Sketty. He'll need to find some extra speed and stay ahead of Costo.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Fabrice Leterme as there is a big gap ahead.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Fabrice Leterme is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Good news for Fabrice Leterme, the gap to Costo has decreased. It's now down to 0.8 seconds.
Exactly what Fabrice Leterme needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Costo.
Things don't seem to be going Felix 789's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It seems like Felix 789 is struggling and not able to maintain his pace.
This may not be a track that Felix 789 is familiar with, which can be a pleasant challenge or an annoyance at being off pace.
The tension is building as Fabrice Leterme trails behind Costo. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Costo is pushing to maintain the lead, while Fabrice Leterme is working to close in and challenge for the position. Fabrice Leterme is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Costo at the moment.
This is where the mental toughness of Fabrice Leterme comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
These drivers are in a fierce battle, with Felix 789 trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Team 01. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish.
It's going to be tough for Felix, as Team 01 seems to have found his rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Felix pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
As we come into the final moments of this epic race, Team 01 is in the lead.
It takes a special kind of driver to perform under pressure like this. Team 01 has certainly risen to the occasion.
And there it is. Team 01 has completed the race in first place, setting a blistering pace that none of the other drivers could match. What a fantastic race from Felix 789, who brings it home in second place.
Brilliant. Felix 789 showed great skill and determination to take second place.
What a race from Loc Honnes. He kept his cool and secured a well-earned third place on the podium. Followed by Adam Keefe and Jaeger Strensky in fourth and fifth. Coming in sixth we have Melero. Sketty claims seventh. Costo brings home eighth. Fabrice Leterme end in ninth. Tenth is Darren O'Mara. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at Ahvenisto, as we're getting ready to kick things off. Starting from pole position is the best possible outcome for Darren O'Mara.
He can't afford to get complacent. He will have a target on his back now.
Fabrice Leterme is starting this race on the front row.
He will have to be smart about his moves. He must not burn out too early.
The third position belongs to Costo.
It's like he's on the outside looking in, close enough to see the front without actually being there.
Sketty lines up in 4th place as the engines rev and the race begins.
Starting from here, Sketty may already have expectations of a podium finish.
Starting from the 5th position on the grid, we have Melero.
Melero is in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
The starting signal has been given, and the drivers face the uncertainty of the first lap. With cars packed tightly together, the potential for spins or collisions is high.
Staying out of trouble in these early moments is crucial. It's a fine line between pushing hard and staying safe.
The stewards will be hoping that there aren't too many incidents for them to pick over when the dust settles on this one.
I'm looking forward to this one, Hal. Maybe we'll see a return to form for Sketty in this outing in Finland.
Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position? Seems like Fabrice Leterme is moving in slow motion compared to the rest of the field, already losing precious places.
The starting grid is no time to catch 40 winks, Hal. Fabrice Leterme better wake up and get on with the job.
All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up. The pressure is on when the field is this tightly packed. Maintaining just enough aggression to hold off their rivals without pushing too hard will help these drivers keep it clean.
The drivers will be jostling for the best position, Hal. Some of them may not make it to the second lap in one piece.
Settling into a rhythm is going to be crucial here.
It all comes down to this, Hal, where the rubber meets the road. There's no more time for talk, no more practice. The teams have done all they can. Now it comes down to Melero to bring it home.
This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
Like gladiators they enter, Hal, but instead of lions and swords our champions fight in an arena of tarmac, and with fire-breathing machines of cutting-edge materials, designed to explore the very limits of physics itself in what can sometimes be very much a fight to the death.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Breaking update. A great moment for Melero, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
They say rubbing is racing, but if Melero gets too close, they might end up trading carbon fiber souvenirs instead of positions.
Tough break for Melero, who has just lost a position. The pursuit is on. Jaeger Strensky is closing the gap on Felix 789, determined to claim P5. It seems like Fabrice Leterme is getting in range of Adam Keefe.
He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
Breaking news, folks. A great pass for Fabrice Leterme as they pick off other drivers and move up the field. Meanwhile, Adam Keefe has lost ground. It looks like Costo is all over Darren O'Mara going through Sualinki, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake. Hold that thought. Great driving from Costo, who has just gained a place and moved up to first.
That's what we like to see. Costo is really showing his class today. And if you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Loc Honnes is looking to take advantage of that slipstream baying so close to Team 01. That's going to provide the extra speed to challenge for the position. The adrenaline is pumping as Felix 789 gets within striking distance of Darren O'Mara in their race for second.
This is the moment where legends are made. These drivers will go down in history as the ones who fought tooth and nail for the top spot.
Breaking development. An impressive showing from Felix 789, who has gained positions and left Darren O'Mara in the dust. No room for error here. Loc Honnes is breathing down the neck of Adam Keefe, waiting for the perfect chance to make his move. We've got an edge-of-your-seat battle between Sketty in third and Jaeger Strensky in fourth, with just 0.2 seconds between them.
It's an intense race between these two drivers and Strensky is going to have to try something here.
Darren O'Mara is having to make that ACA 70-80s road, Saab 99 Turbo S1 1978 as wide as possible to try and keep Team 01 behind him. Breaking update. Oh dear, Darren O'Mara has dropped down to 7th.
Yeah, I really can't see him holding on to this place for much longer.
We're watching Adam Keefe in 7th, and is currently being hounded by Darren O'Mara with a gap of just 0.2 seconds.
You're right. Adam Keefe in 7th needs to stay cool under pressure and make every move count. But O'Mara is a fierce competitor, and won't give up without a fight.
Fabrice Leterme wants to get into Team 01's slipstream.
It looks like Fabrice Leterme has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
Darren O'Mara is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
These drivers are battling hard for this position, each one trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other. Hold on a moment. Big gains for Adam Keefe as they move up the field, leaving Fabrice Leterme behind.
I remember being in a similar situation during my racing days. Adam Keefe must stay focused and wait for the perfect opportunity to overtake.
Braking alert. Heartbreak for Fabrice Leterme as they slip down the field. The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this.
You can feel the intensity in the air. The slightest mistake could cost either of them valuable time, and the position.
This is getting exciting. Sketty is looking for any gap that might open up the position.
That's right, Costo is showing some great form and it looks like Sketty won't be able to catch up, barring any mistakes.
The battle for P2 is heating up as Sketty tries to catch Costo in P2. The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Melero in 4th chases after Sketty. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Melero needs to find a way to close the gap.
This is where experience comes into play. Sketty has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Melero is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Darren O'Mara will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. The gap between Darren O'Mara and Fabrice Leterme is growing. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
O'Mara needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Fabrice Leterme.
Every move counts now as Sketty works to reel in Costo and overtake for P2.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Sketty needs to stay patient and wait for Costo to make a mistake.
Things are heating up as Melero tries to close the gap to Sketty.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can Melero close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Sketty is placed 3rd at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Melero, who is 0.3 seconds behind. Sketty has just managed to set his fastest lap of the race so far with a lap time of 1 minute. Melero is running 4th, and trying to catch Sketty. Wait, what a move. Melero has moved up to 3rd. Disappointing for Melero, falling down the order to 4th. The race is really heating up. Team 01 is hunting down Melero with everything he's got. Sketty is looking for an opportunity to get around Melero.
Rubbing's racing, but let's just hope they don't rub it too hard.
Superb driving from Sketty, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
Yes, Sketty is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
Hold the phone, and Melero has just won the place from Sketty.
Definitely, but there's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen. Melero needs to keep driving with focus and intensity.
Melero wants to close that gap with Sketty. Wait, a setback for Melero, who has just been passed.
Yes, but he can't give up. There's still plenty of time left in this race, and Melero needs to stay focused and keep pushing. If you don't push the boundaries, you will never know where they are.
Things are heating up as Team 01 closes in on Melero. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
If Team 01 pushes too hard, he might end up taking the scenic route, and nobody's got time for sightseeing during a race.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Loc Honors is closing in on Team 01. Team 01 could be looking for a way up the inside of Adam Keefe.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
Melero is holding 6th, but Loc Honors is right on his tail.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Loc Honors to make up that gap, especially with Melero defending so well.
It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
And the drivers know it too, Hal. He's giving it everything he's got. and you can see him pushing the limits of the car's capabilities.
Braking development. What a tight spot for Adam Keefe. Mellero is right on his tail 0.2 seconds away, and Timo 1 just inches ahead with a gap of 0.1 seconds. It's a true test of these drivers' racecraft abilities.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind provide valuable information for Adam Keefe. He'll need to assess the situation and use the gaps strategically to plan the next move.
Oh, the pressure is on for Adam Keefe. Trapped between Mellero 0.2 seconds away and Timo 1 just ahead with a gap of 0.1 seconds, he must defend his position while seeking an opportunity to advance. Looks like we might have a great battle starting here between Mellero in 6th and Adam Keefe. It's been tense with a gap of only 0.4 seconds. The action is heating up here as Adam Keefe is in 7th, defending from Fabrice Leterme, who is only 0.4 seconds away. Oh, this is getting intense. Fabrice Leterme is just a few car lengths behind Adam Keefe. It's not going to plan for Fabrice Leterme, who is trailing behind Adam Keefe, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of focus and determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to compete at this level, and these drivers have it in spades. Let's hope they can keep it up and give us a race to remember.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Fabrice Leterme trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Adam Keefe. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Adam Keefe is on a mission, chasing Mellero, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, Adam Keefe will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
It's certainly not going to plan for Adam Keefe right now, who is struggling to keep up with Mellero. During your racing career, Ada, how did you determine when it was the right time to pit for fresh tires due to tire degradation?
It was a combination of factors, Hal. Monitoring lap times, communicating with the team about tire wear, and assessing the car's handling were all crucial in deciding when to make a pit stop for fresh tires.
While Mellero is not under immediate threat from Adam Keefe, he can still benefit from staying focused. Any slip-up could lose him the position.
Absolutely right, Hal, and Adam Keefe knows he's got to keep driving at his best and take advantage of any opportunity that comes his way.
The pressure is on as Adam Keefe tries to catch up to Mellero. Adam Keefe is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Mellero to 0.2 seconds. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Timo 1, who is currently in P4. But Sketty is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Timo 1.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Timo 1 tries to reel in Sketty. But Sketty is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Timo 1 needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Sketty and move up the field.
Looks like Adam Keefe is really pushing it to the limit. He's taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about maintaining that fine line between speed and control. We'll have to wait to see if Adam Keefe can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
The pursuit is on. Timo 1 is closing the gap on Sketty, determined to claim P3.
The gap between them is now just over 0.4 seconds.
It looks like Adam Keefe is in control. He's ahead of Fabrice Leterme by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon.
It's not over yet. Fabrice Leterme is right on Adam Keefe's tail, and if he can find just a little bit of extra speed, he might be able to make a move.
Oh, this is getting intense. Timo 1 is just behind Sketty. Hold up, breaking info. Fantastic move from Timo 1, who has just gained a position.
You can't argue with results like that. Timo 1 is really making his mark on this race. Should things go awry, Timo 1 and Sketty might find themselves giving a whole new meaning to the term tandem drifting, though I doubt they'd enjoy it as much as the spectators.
This is getting exciting. Timo 1 is looking for any gap that might open up the position.
Surely he's got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
Team 01 needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Sketty.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Adam Keefe is chasing Melero in P6. This is a thrilling battle as Team 01 edges closer to Sketty in their fight for P3.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
The battle for P6 is heating up as Adam Keefe tries to catch Melero in P6. The gap between Adam Keefe and Melero is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. Fabrice Leterme is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. This is where every inch counts. Fabrice Leterme is pushing hard to close the gap on Adam Keefe. Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
We got a close battle as Adam Keefe closes in on Fabrice Leterme.
The chase between Adam Keefe and Fabrice Leterme is like a high-speed game of tag only. The stakes are much higher.
The delta between Loc Honnes in 5th and Sketty remains over a second, but Loc Honnes is not letting up. He's pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 8 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
Absolutely. Loc Honnes in 5th will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
Every move counts now as Adam Keefe works to reel in Fabrice Leterme and overtake for P7.
The mental game is just as important here. Adam Keefe must keep his cool while putting pressure on Fabrice Leterme.
The race is heating up as Team 01 in 3rd closes in on Costo. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Team 01 is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight. Team 01 is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 1.51 seconds down. The race is really heating up. Loc Honnes is hunting down Sketty with everything he's got. Things are heating up as Team 01 tries to close the gap to Costo. It looks like we might get a battle between Team 01 and Costo. Look at that, Loc Honnes is hot on the tail of Sketty. This is where the race gets really interesting. Team 01 is closing in on Costo. The gap between Team 01 and Costo is getting smaller. The pressure is on as Jaeger Strensky tries to catch up to Fabrice Leterme.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Strensky needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Team 01 is on a mission, chasing Costo, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Team 01 appears to be losing ground on Costo. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Sualinki to get a good exit and gain some ground.
Team 01 needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
It would seem Sketty is starting to get a bit frustrated here at being held up by Loc Honnes.
Yeah, but all Loc Honnes has to do is defend his line. It's up to Sketty to find a way past, or push for a mistake. But it's no good if he's the one making the mistakes, Hal.
Looks like Fabrice Leterme is really pushing it to the limit. He's taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about maintaining that fine line between speed and control. One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Fabrice Leterme needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Team 01 is running 3rd and trying to catch Costo.
The racing is getting tight between Team 01 and Costo as they battle for P2. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Team 01 gaining places and Costo losing them.
Yes, but Team 01 can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position.
The gap between Costo and Team 01 is razor thin as they vie for second in this nail-biting contest.
This battle between Costo and Team 01 is so intense, you could cut the tension with a knife, or should I say, with a front wing.
Costo is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Team 01 at the moment.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
These drivers are in a fierce battle, with Locanes trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Costo. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. It's game on now. Locanes has closed the gap to Costo. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
It looks like Melero is pushing hard to catch up to Sketty. That's not a small gap, but Melero has what it takes to challenge for the position.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Melero in sixth determined to catch up. But we know Sketty isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Melero is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as Melero can close that gap.
Braking development. A brilliant maneuver from Locanes, who has just moved up the field. Locanes is looking for a way round Costo.
There is no room for error in this battle.
I'm sure Costo in third is starting to notice Locanes is right on his tail, and is still closing the gap.
If Locanes gets any closer to the back of Costo, then one of them is gonna need some lube if they want to take this further.
It's a close race between Locanes and Costo in third.
The slightest mistake from either driver could lead to a meeting with the barriers, and nobody wants an impromptu autograph session with the wall.
Stop the press. It's looking good for Sketty, who has gained places and put some distance between themselves and Costo. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Stop the press. Looks like that's a mistake from Costo. This could be costly. Look at that. They're trading places in every turn, a constant game of cat and mouse. Each driver knows one mistake could cost them dearly. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Melero will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
It's going to be tough for Melero, as Adam Keefe seems to have found his rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Melero pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
It's not looking good for Melero, who is still behind Adam Keefe, and the gap is increasing.
This is a frustrating situation for Melero, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Adam Keefe.
Well, it doesn't look like Sketty is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Locanes. It's not going to plan for Sketty, who is trailing behind Locanes, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. In your experience, Ada, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Hal, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race, from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balancing act that requires immense mental discipline.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Adam Keefe in fifth chases after Sketty. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Adam Keefe needs to find a way to close the gap. It looks like Adam Keefe is making a move. The gap to Sketty is now down to 1.1 seconds. Huge shout out to the admins at ASRL for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Hal, and the excitement is electric. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
The gap between Sketty and Adam Keefe may be wide, but that doesn't mean Sketty is safe. He's got to maintain concentration and avoid any lapses in performance.
That's very true, and Adam Keefe knows that as well. He's got to drive his own race and wait for Sketty to make a mistake to have any chance of overtaking.
Things are starting to get tense as Adam Keefe manages to close the gap to Sketty. It's now down to 0.7 seconds.
He'll need to step up his game and start pulling away again.
Adam Keefe is giving it his all, chasing down Sketty in P4.
Adam Keefe is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
The gap between Adam Keefe and Sketty is growing. It's now up to 1.1 seconds. This is proving to be an exciting race so far. We are truly privileged to witness these legends of the track battle it out for victory.
And you know what? I am so honored to be sitting here beside you today. As a fellow it's always great to work with someone who shares my passion for motor racing. Plus, your insightful commentary is making this race even more exciting.
Wow, Felix 789 is really pushing hard in these final moments of the race.
He's going to need to make some more room on that trophy shelf back home.
What a win! This is a historic moment for Felix 789, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
What a display of skill and precision.
Some might say that second place is the first loser, but Team 01 certainly doesn't see it that way. He put in a phenomenal effort and should be proud of his podium finish. Well done to Loke Honors for securing third place on the podium. In 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's Sketty, Adam Keefe, Melero, and Jaeger Strensky, with Fabrice Leterme in 8th.